So I think we were looking and we were talking about something. I know we just saw the movie The Iron Claw the other day.
Yes, we did.
Interesting movie. I think you enjoyed it more than I did, but we can talk about that later.
I mean, it's debatable, but
I think you liked it more than I did.
Okay.
But I think what really motivated us to go watch that movie was because it was about Brotherhood, right?
Yes, it was.
So I want to ask you something about Brotherhood because there aren't so many good examples out there in different communities of people that are siblings. A lot of times siblings, they separate or they fight. I mean, again, but that's all normal. Fighting is normal, right?
Brothers will always fight.
Always. Sisters too. Brothers, that's normal, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times there's not good examples of brotherhood. But for you, if I were to ask you, what is brotherhood for you? Like, what do you feel or what do you take out of it, right? What is brotherhood for you, number one? And number two, I would also ask, what is it that you've taken out of our brotherhood that's been very important for you that you could teach others and so forth?
Well, I honestly, I agree with what you said. I think brotherhood is like missing nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something young men have as much nowadays. And how would I describe brotherhood? It's like I would say the purest form of friendship, of an unbreakable and unconditional type of love between one another. It's like a strong male friendships, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like being there for one another, being a team. Because I don't believe in today's society, like either you want to make it in life or you want to just aspire to do many different things. I don't think the way to do it is to be like, you would call it like a lone wolf, right? I don't think if you want to aspire like financial freedom or have like a big family, you can't do it alone. You have to like have a brotherhood. You have to have people you trust, that you could close your eyes, that you can not have eyes behind your back, and know that your brother is going to have your back, is going to be there for you at all times. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like blood, right? Because there are many peoples that don't have a brother, don't grow up with siblings. Maybe they're just they're just one child, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So they don't have no one to really depend on. So they can look for brothers out in the world. Now, is that the easiest thing? No. But if you do have brothers, I would recommend to like stick with each other.
Interesting.
I also think one of the things is to challenge each other. Once you challenge somebody, it opens their mind. And I think that's what brotherhood is about. Not necessarily thinking that things are always going to go your way. Having another person think differently and challenge the way you think, or you know, instead of going one way, do it another way. I think that's overall like the point of brotherhood. People that share the same core values as you, that aspire for you to be better. In case you happen to fall, to grab you, to be there. Because the truth is that we all fall.
Of course, yeah.
We all fall. Everyone falls in life. But if you have brothers nearby, you won't fall as hard, I would say. I don't think you fall as hard because if you have true brothers, they'll be there to catch. You won't like necessarily hit bedrock or rock bottom in a sense, because you're going to have someone there for you. And even if you do, it's going to be in a sense easier for you to get up because you have that help, that motivation. That person, Yeah, but that's what I would say brotherhood is or should be. That's the way I interpret that word. How about you?
It's interesting because you, and of course, I do agree with what you said, your definition that brotherhood doesn't have to be blood-wise, blood-related.
Right.
But it's interesting because when you said brotherhood and you immediately went towards that direction, or people who were not blood-related, but they're very close to you.
Yeah.
And they're like your brother, or they become like your brother, right? Now, for me, when I hear the word brotherhood, I just think of what's your relationship with your brother. But when I think of brother, I think of blood-wise, like sibling-wise, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. I think you can agree with this. I think maybe you thought like that because growing up, I think you personally had better memories with like your bros or like your friends, like growing up and hanging out and playing, going to play ball and stuff. Yeah. So maybe you had better memory. I'm not saying I didn't or I didn't have male friends, no, but maybe you had better male friends or more male friends than I did. So that's probably why your mind immediately went there, right?
Right.
Maybe you could say that.
I mean, yeah, I did have. Yeah. I don't have it anymore, right? Because
life,
it's life, right? Yeah. Circumstantial. But I did grow up with like a group of friends, a group of brothers. So it kind of like made me dependent on them at times and them on me.
And also, I know some of these people that you hung out with. You guys were close. I remember that.
Yeah.
And also, to be fair, growing up, we weren't super close. I think once we got older, for many different reasons, which we'll get to eventually, we got a lot closer. Now, I wrote something here that I was going to share with you, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because, so a couple things. I would also agree with you that when you have a brotherhood, either sibling or not sibling, you're right, you guys can challenge each other, either mentally or physically.
Yes.
I read a book a long time ago. I forgot who wrote it, but I think it's called like The Way of a Superior Man. I don't remember everything, but I remember a couple things, like for example, that men do better when they're with other men. Okay. Right? And I'm not talking about
that's
like
100% true. Yeah,
and I'm not even talking about like let's put away like toxic mentality. I'm not talking about that. Like men just do better when they're surrounded by other men. Because, like you said, they challenge each other. They keep each other in check.
Yes,
right.
100%.
Oh, is this your goal? Okay, let's work at it together. Now, of course, they both have to be into the same things. Also, the book mentioned that men, a lot of the times, and again, I don't want to say everybody. Let's stick to. I don't want to generalize things, right?
Okay.
But they said usually men live in a constant error type of life, which means if you make a mistake, okay, I made the mistake. How do I fix it? Okay, boom. Now I fixed it. I don't make that mistake again. Okay. That's just how men are programmed. We are problem solvers, usually. Okay, what's the problem? Let's solve it. Yeah. And when you're surrounded by other men, right, you learn leadership skills. You learn how to work together. You learn how to, you realize, okay, that was my mistake. I'm going to fix it. Let me continue.
Yeah.
Right? So now, what I've learned out of brotherhood from being with you, right, and it's only us two, right?
Yeah.
That we know of for now, is the art and the science of conflict resolution.
Okay.
You know, people might say, I'm a good talker, I can converse well, I'm good with interviews. So when it comes to arguments, that's no problem for me. A lot of people might think this, right? The thing is, conflict resolution, that's obviously it falls under the communication realm, but the skills to fix an argument, either with your brother, with your spouse, or whoever, that skill is very different from just being a good talker or being a good flirter, someone who's good at flirting or someone who's good with interviews.
100%. Yeah.
Different skills. But people, I've noticed, a lot of times people fall under this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, fancy words, all it really means is that a lot of us as humans, a lot of times, we are really bad at predicting of how good we're going to be in a situation. Again, there's exceptions to the rules.
Of course.
So people think, oh, well, clearly I'm good at this and this. Then when I'm in this situation, I'm going to act like this. Very easy example, poker. I know you're into poker.
Yes, I do play.
A lot of people, there's been studies that show that people who just get into poker, let's say they get really good at it and they understand. They might win with their friends and their family, and they're like, oh, I'm pretty good. Okay, let me go into a tournament. You know, I'm good here, so, you know, if I can go to a tournament, I'll probably win.
I must be good as well, yeah.
I might as well be good, right? Because I did good here. But a lot of times, novices and amateurs, they make this mistake, and when they get to the tournament, what happens? They're the first ones out.
Yeah.
Why? Because they predicted very wrong how good they were going to do. So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people think that they're good at conflict resolution, or they're like, I'll just say I'm sorry and that's it. I'm saying that this is an art and a science, and this is very difficult, is because when you're in an argument, a lot of times it's all emotions. And to make emotions and logic not come together when you're fighting can be very hard, right? So I think with you, I feel like I've been learning about the art of conflict resolution before, but with you, I've actually had to practice a lot more things. And two quick things, and then I would like to hear your thoughts and what you think.
Okay.
Is number one, I wrote it down, using I statements to bring tension down and validate your subjective experience, right? I've made this mistake. A lot of people have made this mistake. Is you're arguing with someone and they'll tell you something like, and you'll tell them, no, you're wrong, right? I read a book by Dale Carnegie. You probably heard of the book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. It's a famous book, right? Written in the 1900s. And basically what he says is one of the mistakes you don't want to do is tell people that they're wrong. It sounds so basic, but we forget it. And especially you don't want to tell someone, oh, what you're feeling is wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're bringing them down and it's like you're speaking down to them. Also, you don't make the situation better. And it's important to validate their subjective experience. Now, just because someone might feel something, it doesn't mean that feeling is right, but it also doesn't mean it's wrong, right? Because I think you and I have spoken about this. Feelings are indicators. So you might feel something, maybe you misunderstood what I said, and I didn't mean to make you mad, but you got mad, whatever. Even though your feeling might, because you misunderstood me, your feeling might be wrong, but you got mad by my misunderstanding. So clearly there's something going on. Maybe childhood trauma, maybe because I've said things in the past that you didn't like, but there was unresolved conflict and tension. So your feelings is an indicator to me. And when I validate your subjective experience, what I'm really telling you, and I thought this was beautiful, is when you validate someone, you're telling them that I care enough to understand what's bothering you. I value you. I value your feelings. They're important to me because you are important to me as a person. So I think it's very important. And also I statements. Instead of me attacking you, I'm going to tell you I feel offended or I'm angry at you. But I'm saying me. I'm saying Aurus, I'm feeling this towards you. I'm feeling that because it takes off tension off you and you don't feel attacked.
Right.
I'm just telling you what I feel. And you can't tell me that my feeling is wrong. You might not agree, and then we can talk about that.
Right.
So I think I've learned with you, because we've had a lot of great times, a lot of great convos, and I think we've had more good convos than I think arguments. But when we had the arguments, they've been all over the place, and I think they've been great. And I think you and I have both done these techniques to lower tension. And look, it always comes out good.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to break it down when it comes in the sense of communication, because you're right. And I actually learned this from you. You taught me how I can't invalidate someone's feeling, right? You can't tell me I'm wrong in the way I feel, because there could have been a misunderstanding. You probably meant it a certain way, but it came out another, and then I interpreted it that way. So that's how I felt. So that, I think, it's an important topic when it comes to, I believe in any realm, but sticking to brotherhood, it's a very important thing, especially when it comes to effective communication, when it comes to admitting that you were wrong. You know, it takes some type of humility to be able to do that. But one point that you brought up, or I was actually able to think about a little bit, was when it comes to when you communicate and how effective you are, how important tone and message could be.
How so?
I believe when you're communicating with somebody, this is me, right? I believe there are other studies that might disagree with me, but I believe message is the most important thing. Right?
Okay.
Because if I'm going to communicate with you, I'm going to say a certain message to you, right? And regardless in what tone I might tell it to you, I believe the message is still the more important. Now, this is all very circumstantial, right? It depends how many times have I said it. It depends what has happened. Is someone in a good mood, someone in a bad mood? Am I correcting you? Am I not correcting you? it's very circumstantial, but I believe message is more important than tone. But I do believe tone plays a part as well.
But you're saying that message is most important? You mean the actual content? Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean?
Like the content of the words. Like for example, if I tell you, I don't get up, versus, yo, I don't, it's time to get up.
Right, but that's
it's almost the same thing.
It's the same thing, but it's more like, maybe I'm referring to, I feel like it's more like a military style. Like, when someone doesn't understand something at a certain point, I guess tone doesn't become a big factor anymore. Because if I'm constantly repeating myself and you seem not to understand the nice way, then tone doesn't really matter anymore at this point. What matters is the message that I'm about to tell you. Because it doesn't seem like you've been able to learn, in a sense, right? The lighter way, the easier way.
The nice way.
The nice way. So I have to get to a point where I might have to get rough.
But that's like worst case scenario. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is worst case scenario.
Now, to be fair, your job requires this a lot, right?
Yes, right. I mean, I try to be as professional as possible, but sometimes when people don't understand or want things their way, I have to be, strict about it. And it's my message, the most important thing, but tone does play a part. Maybe you're right. Maybe when it comes to like loved ones and like when you and I communicate, tone is very important because you don't want to hurt, another person's feelings. Maybe tone could be an effective way of communicating that message towards the other person. What do you think?
So is what you're saying. So you're saying is this. Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
And I mean, I think I would agree with you. Yeah. But then I'm also going to mention something else. Okay. Is you're saying that in the beginning, tone is more important than message. But eventually, if they're not listening or they don't understand the easy way or the lighter way, eventually your message is going to become harsher, and you don't care about tone because it's about the message and how you react to that message. You might have to change it to more harsh. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I immediately related it to
work,
or like the hard circumstance, right? When someone is not understanding the nice way, I have to say it like in a tough love type of way, where like the message is more important than the tone. But overall, if we're thinking of like general arguments or normal arguments, nothing too excessive, sometimes our message could get lost in our tone. So I think, it would be important, I guess, our tone.
Interesting, because I remember I read a book by Tony Robbins, famous world speaker, and he talks a lot about psychology. And he I think it was, I could be off on the numbers a little bit, but I think it was like 87, 13, and 7. I think, or maybe it was 80 something 7. No, I think it was 87, 13, 7, I think.
Okay.
And he said that when it comes to communication, now he didn't talk about when it comes to worst case scenario. He just said when it comes to communication, 87% is all about body language. You have open body language, closed, your facial features, right? Are you facing the person? 13% is tone.
Okay.
Like, how do you sound? And then the 7% were the actual words, was the actual content of the message. And he said, if you can perfect in the right scenario, have the right body language and have the right tone, most likely you can get what you want out of the situation because your body language is on point and your tone's on point. But again, he didn't speak about other scenarios. That's what I just remember from the book. I forgot what's the name of the book, but that's what he said.
So I might be wrong.
I'm not sure, but you're talking about worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's what I immediately related it to.
You also deal with a lot of difficult tenants, and you work with over 300 people. You're in charge of over 300 people. So I think maybe we're in two different worlds. Could you say that?
Yeah. I guess maybe the environment that I'm locally in, I definitely have to face much more aggressive people. Yeah. And maybe that's made me more of an aggressive individual as a communicator in a sense when it comes to like them.
Interesting. So